Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Liz Marden and today we're going to talk about how to condition words and equipment with your animals and why it's so important that we do condition those words and equipment before we even begin our training properly. So, there are a lot of misconceptions that people have when they first start training their animal. We often assume that our animals know exactly what we're saying or doing without having to even be taught what those words or signals mean. And it is so wrong and the biggest mistake that you can make as a new animal owner or trainer, okay? We need to teach or condition our animals our language, just as you would teach a child our language, your language, when they're learning to speak, okay? Yes and away are potentially two of the best words that you can teach your animal. Okay, so we're going to come on to equipment in a minute, but if we're looking at very basic words, we need to be able to tell our animals they've done the right thing, and we need to be able to tell our animals when they can go off and be themselves, especially when we're looking at recall. Okay, so yes is a fantastic word. They hear good boy, good girl, and their name all the time. Yes is a little bit more specific. So when your animal, for a dog example, does the right thing, you can say yes, and you can make that your mark word. You can then use away or a different word to signal that the session has finished and they can go and do their own thing. So you can even use the word finished if you want. You can change the words to work for you. I use yes and away because that's the most natural thing for me. We need to teach them what yes and away means before we do anything else. So before we even look at equipment. To do that, I want you to have in your hand 5 treats, 5 very small treats for your animal, and have your animal in front of you. You're not going to ask them to do anything. They can be completely free to be themselves. And all you're going to do is say yes, and then give them a treat. Yes, treat. Yes, treat. Yes, treat. When you get to your last treat, you're going to throw it away from you and the animal, and you're going to say away, and then you're simply going to ignore your animal for 10 to 20 seconds or so. Okay, so they start learning when they hear that word yes, a treat is coming, and when they hear that word away, you're then going to ignore them and they're going to go off and do their own thing. So you've taught them a mark word and a finish word. Marking it is for when they've done the correct behaviour. So if you ask your dog to sit, as soon as their bottom touches the floor, that's when you would say yes. So now we've looked at some very basic words, we're going to look at some equipment, and it's exactly the same. Just because a piece of equipment is made for a dog, as an example animal, it doesn't mean that dog will automatically know what that piece of equipment means to them. Clickers and whistles are the 2 biggest pieces of equipment that people have misconceptions over. So let's have a look at those. We're going to start with clickers. Now, a clicker is a box which has a push down bar in it or a button that when you push on it, it makes a click noise. So nice and simple. The most common thing that I hear from a pet owner is the clicker doesn't work for my dog or my animal. They just keep doing what they were doing beforehand. They still aren't listening to me. And when I click, they do not come back. Now, the majority of the time when I ask them, have you taught them what that clicker means to begin with, what have you done with it? They normally say, no, actually, I assumed they knew what it meant. And that's just not the case at all. We need to make sure we teach them what that click sounds means. The other reason why it doesn't work is sometimes they're not using the clicker correctly. So as in that beginning statement, some people will say to me, when I click, my dog doesn't come back, or my cat or my horse or whatever. And that's because clickers on the whole are not used for recall. They're used to mark a correct behaviour. So just like what we did with the yes word on the previous slide. So the click means the animal has done the correct behaviour and the a reward is on its way. Every time you click, you must reward, otherwise the clicker stops meaning anything, okay? So a clicker marks the correct behaviour in the same way that your yes marks the correct behaviour. So if you wanted your dog to sit, you would ask for a sit, and as soon as their bottom hits the floor, you would click the clicker and then give them a treat. What the clicker does allow is it gives you time to get a treat. So if you've clicked the clicker, once you've taught them what a click means, you have then got time to get that treat out of your pocket or your treat bag and give it to them, because they know it's coming. They've already had that instant gratification by hearing the click noise when their bums hit the floor, so they know they've done the right thing. The same way as what I just explained, conditioning the yes word, we're going to condition our clicker. So we are going to condition our clicker by pairing it with a treat. So every time we click, the animal knows a treat's coming. So all you're going to do again is have 5 treats in your hand and your animal next to you with your clicker. You're not going to ask them to do a single thing. You're just going to click, treat, click, treat, click, treat, click, treat. And on the last one, you can throw it away and say away as we've done beforehand. Now, you need to do this more than just once. You can't just do one session with 5 treats and they'll understand what it means immediately. You need to do this several times a day, perhaps for a couple of days, to really cement in there what it means. And even with animals that already do know what it means, like Tony the cat, I still recondition that clicker with her regularly to make sure it's really solidly in there. So there's no harm going back and revisiting things and relearning it. But every time you click, you must give a reward of some kind. Now, not every animal likes treats, and that's fine. It's just a reward for your animal. So think about what your animal's like. Is it treats of some kind? So is it biscuit? Is it carrot? Is it cheese? Is it a fuss? So a nice fuss on the body? Is it a game or a toy? Anything can be a reward, okay? So you just need to make sure every time you click, you pair that with a reward so your animal knows they've done the right thing. Whistles. So exactly the same as a whistle. I often hear from owners, whistle training does not work for my dog, and when I whistle, they simply do not come back, so we stopped using it. Again, the majority of the time it's because they didn't spend any time training their animals what that whistle meant. They just took it straight outside, assuming a dog would know what a whistle means and comes back to it, and then that's where they hit the issues. The other reason why whistle training sometimes doesn't work is because you've gone too eagerly into it and you haven't laid enough groundwork there before you've gone out and practiced your whistle training around loads of distractions. So distractions are other dogs, leaves blowing in the wind itself, smells, people, anything like that. So anything that's going to make it a bit harder for your dog. If you've not got a really solid recall indoors first, then when you take it outside, the dog will find it much, much harder. And then even when you blow that whistle, they might not come back. So real solid groundwork is needed in recall in general, especially when we're using whistles. Again, same as the clicker, every time you blow that whistle, you must reward. And as I've just said, do not take the recall training outside too early, otherwise your whistle could cease to mean anything. So if you go to a beach after not practicing that whistle training for too long, so maybe you've only done it for a day inside, and then you take it straight to the beach, you're going to be blowing that whistle and your dog is not going to be coming back to you. So the whistle stops meaning something nice is going to happen. So we don't want that to happen. We want to condition our whistle indoors first in exactly the same way as I explained to the yes and the clicker. We're going to blow the whistle and we're going to give a treat. Blow that whistle, give a treat. Blow that whistle, give a treat. Blow that whistle, give a treat. And then throw your last treat away from you and say away. Then ignore your dog for 10 seconds because you've finished that moment of training. There is more to recall than just this, but in terms of conditioning the whistle, that is the most important part. You must teach them that every time they hear that whistle, it means a treat's going to happen, so that when you're out and about and you blow that whistle, they turn around and come speeding back to you because they know a treat or a reward, because it doesn't always have to be a treat, it can be a game, is going to happen. And that makes you much more likely to get your animal back, because you've got to remember, you're calling them away from other dogs, people, rabbits, amazing smells, whatever. So you have to be more worthwhile to them. The pay has to be higher to them for you to come back, for them to come back to you, than whatever they're chasing. Okay, so make sure no matter what piece of equipment you're using, whether it be clickers, whistles, leads even, dogs don't know what those pieces of equipment mean unless you teach them. So teach your dogs the words you want them to learn. Teach your dogs how to use the equipment and work with you with the equipment you buy for them. Please do help to support Nature Therapies by subscribing to this channel. It's completely free and helps me to continue promoting free, safe, professional animal behaviour and training advice. Thanks very much.